What's going on, everybody? So I've been working a little bit this weekend, so I haven't had as much time as I'd like to put into this engine. So I haven't quite caught up to what I said I was going to get finished in the last video, so I'll give you guys a quick update because I'm doing something a little bit different than I was thinking I was going to do. I was going to just lap them and have them be lapped, I guess. But now I'm figuring out that if I spend a little bit more time with a little bit more materials, I can polish them up pretty well, and they look way better, and they'll perform a lot better. They won't have as much turbid airflow or surface area for carbon to build up on. You don't want carbon building up between your valve and your head because then you'll have sealing problems. So let's get to it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I've started polishing on this one, and I haven't been polishing this one. This isn't the best side to show you on because these are a lot, they have a wider valve seat band, but these are all done and these ones haven't been quite done yet. So I started on this one, and it's a little bit nicer than the other one. You can kind of tell. Let's see. It's getting a little bit better for the band on the valve. Here's the other one. This one has just the lapping compound on it. So here's a really good comparison. The one on the right has been polished, and the one on the left has not. It's still got some rings on it that are pretty deep, and the one on the right has a bunch of little rings, so it'll seat a little bit better. You can kind of hear the difference between the two. And this is what the valve seat looks like. So the valve seat is nice and polished right there, a lot smoother than this one over here. You can see how it's got a gray tint to it, and it's got some pretty big ridges on it. So I was getting done with just doing the regular compound. I have this compound. It's got a fine, coarse, and a fine compound and a coarse compound. So I got done with it, and I was mixing it with oil to make it thin out a little bit, and it wasn't quite giving me the results I was wanting. I was wanting a nice clean surface that's all polished up. So I was thinking about it. I was like, well, I don't have any metal polish. There's no way for me to find metal polish. I'll work with what I have. So I had some paint polish, or paint compound and polish that I used. So I went from the paint compound. I did that like 4 times, I think. And then I went to a finer cut that I had just laying around, and I did that like 5 or 6 times. So that made it a lot shinier and a lot less rigid, which turned out a lot better than it was gonna be before. So I think I'll like it. It'll perform a lot better than having it just with a high ridges. I started out with doing some ultimate compound, some cutting compound that's pretty heavy grit. It's not quite as heavy as using this grit, but it definitely is. It does have some cutting compounds to it. It's still sandpaper at the end of the day. It worked pretty good. You want to clean it for sure. It'll get gray on you, and as soon as it turns gray, you want to get rid of it because then you've got metal shavings inside that you're trying to work around, and those metal shavings will act as more cutting compounds. So you want to clean it out and make sure that that's all clean. And then I went to this Mirror Glaze Ultra Finish polish. I had it laying around. I had some of this, but I didn't quite have, or had enough. I had some polish, but I didn't quite have enough to go through and do everything. So I have a whole bunch of this left over. Thought I'd use that. And that's what I've been using to give me the good polished look that it has. I actually learned that you want it to spin a little bit easier, and you can hear the sound that it makes when it's nice and polished. So these ones are all polished, these ones aren't, and it makes a little bit different sound. These all kind of have the same sound. Now I still have to go through and clean all the compound out of all the little ridges, but that's pretty close. And to compare, I guess, compare the same valve seats, there's one that's polished. Here's one that's not polished. I can't spin it. I can't spin any of them. So that one's not polished. Polished. When I was using the cutting compound, this stuff, you could tell when it was starting to get thin, because it would be audible and you can hear it kind of stop cutting. With the compound and the finish, they don't really have an audible sound. They kind of have a little bit, but not quite as prominent as the cutting compound. So it's really easy to, I was saying, burn through the polish or compound and go hit metal to metal. You can definitely tell when you hit metal to metal because it will make a real loud screeching noise. And you want to stop and lift up and get some more compound in there. So make sure that it's not rubbing too hard. It'll get like really choppy too. You try to spin it and it will kind of go stop, go stop, go stop around the perimeter of it. But it's working really good. It's taking a little bit longer, because it's got a little bit finer particles. The finer the particles, the harder it is, or the longer it's going to be to sand it out, I guess. It's like taking 80 grit sandpaper versus 1200 grit sandpaper. You're going to have completely different characteristics. This is your 80. Well, technically be like 80, and then like 120, I guess. And then you go down to your 600 and then 1200. Those aren't actual numbers, but it's kind of give you the scale on how it goes down. How I figured it was how the cutting compound acted to me. So if you're sanding down something, you sand down a piece of plastic that you can see through. You sand down your plastic with 80 grit, well, it's going to cut right through it, no problem. But you sand down it with 1200, and then it's a little bit slower process. It's going to take you a little bit longer. That compound's going to gum up faster. You got to change it out more frequently. That's what this polish is doing. The compound will stay gritty for a long time. The polish won't stay gritty for very long. So definitely remember that. And it doesn't hurt to have more polish in it than less. You can always change it out, clean it up. If you're worried about it, just clean it up. Do it over again. Put some fresh in there and be done with it. Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for me today. I'm going to catch up with everything else. I've only got this row of exhaust ports polished and started on one. So I've still got 11 more valves to do. I'll get on to that, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you next. Peace!